US 301. Yeah. All right. US 301 goes over a couple of impressive bridges. It works as a big shortcut in a lot of areas and as a local road in a whole lot more areas that honestly I didn't know about before I started making this. All right, let's take a look at the route of US 301. It starts down in Sarasota, Florida, and continues to Delaware and ends just short of Wilmington. Today we're going to be talking about northbound US 301, just one direction today. Here is the start of 301 in Sarasota, Florida. So we see 301 is signed north for Bradenton, and it is splitting off of US 41 at its beginning. Here it is in sort of downtown Sarasota. We see Ringling Avenue here, and that looks kind of downtownish. But apparently you're not actually downtown Sarasota because the next stoplight we see downtown, turn left. We pass right by the Sarasota Bradenton International Airport. It is right between the two, but that's a big up for Bradenton getting their name on there. And here we are crossing into Bradenton. We are also coming back to US 41, which is below us here. We're going to merge back with it. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? And if you really like it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. All right, here we are in central Bradenton on 41 and 301 together, and we are now signed north for Tampa, which technically both roads go to. We're leaving Bradenton, we're crossing the Manatee River here, heading over to Palmetto on the other side of the river. And we're going to be meeting I-75 shortly, and we exit off of this road, north 301 to I-75 and Ellington. Right here in Ellington is where we meet I-75, so we get 75 North Tampa. And on 75 itself, you get 301 signed for Ellington and Palmetto, although both of those would be southbound 301 from this point. Northbound, we aren't really going anywhere particularly large that you can't get off of I-75 later at 301 to get to. So yeah, we are signed for Parish, Sun City Center, and Tampa. But well before we get there, we meet I-75 again. So here we're meeting I-75, getting its Ocala and Brandon on this one, because Brandon is the somewhat major suburb of Tampa right in this area, and south for Naples. If you get off of I-75 at 301 here, we get 301 South Riverview, which is a suburb just south of here on 301. But north, we don't get any Control City at all. But again, we meet I-75 again, and it kind of doesn't really go anywhere you can't get on I-75. We're meeting the Leroy-Selman Turnpike here, and it is signed for Tampa, St. Petersburg. Both of those directions would be go left. In fact, that is just one direction, that is west. And shortly after that, we meet US 92 to I-4. It's really pretty much I-4 right here. It's all one interchange. To I-4 eastbound is signed for Orlando. On I-4, as you can see, you're on 4 East and 92 East, signed for Orlando. 301 now signed north for Zephyr Hills. We continue north and we pass I-75 once again, but this time we do not actually get an interchange. Here we are in downtown Zephyr Hills, and this is our first request of the day. This was requested by Jeff Bilman, so thank you so much for that. Land O'Lakes turn left, 301 is going to be going straight, and hey, Village Inn. Appreciate that place. I went there like every day in high school. Just a quick FYI, we've got a Patreon going, and you can make exit requests and whatnot like Jeff did at certain levels. Although Jeff didn't request that on the Patreon, he requested that by submitting a $5 super sticker, which anybody can do on any video to get a request. And thank you to those of you who do. Out of Zephyr Hills, we meet US 98, the largest numbered 2-digit east-west US highway, and we will be concurrent with it. US 98 for some reason signed north-south here. That's kind of weird. And on US 98 heading toward 301, we see we're going to be signed for Dade City now, which is nowhere near Dade County. Kind of a weird name for a city out here in this part of Florida. We are leaving US 98, which is still signed north, which is weird, to I-75, and we are now on 301 North Wildwood. And we get a nice mileage sign here. We see Wildwood is 27 miles away. You'd think they would sign Ocala at this point, but it would be faster to just take US 98 to I-75 to get to Ocala. Here we're meeting the Florida's Turnpike right around Wildwood, so we see North Ocala and South Miami, skipping Orlando entirely. After the turnpike, we do get signs for Ocala, so we see that is 26 miles away. And here is our sign for The Villages, the largest gated retirement home, I don't know. And shortly we are going to be meeting US 27 and US 441, two roads coming fresh from the Orlando area. And this road is just called 441, 301, 27. Wonder why the 2-digit road doesn't get top billing here. Kind of weird. But yeah, we see north 27, 301, 441 one way and south the other way. This is downtown Ocala, so we see Florida Highway 40 is what we are meeting now, and we continue north for the Control City list 27, 301, 441. In northern Ocala, we are losing US 27. It is heading off and to I-75 that way. And north of Ocala, we split with 441. So 441 will be signed north for Gainesville, and we will be signed for Stark? That's weird. That's a bad sign there. This should be signed for Jacksonville. 301 is the shortcut from I-75 to Jacksonville. That's one of the 2 times I've been on 301 was using it just for that. So Stark, very bad signage here. And if you were taking the cut over, you would be on US 301 by now if you were coming over from I-75. When we get to Stark, we get Alt 301 to I-10 for Jacksonville, which is what it should have been all along, and North 301 for downtown Stark. Here we meet I-10 sign for Jacksonville and the horrible signage for Lake City. We're heading into Baldwin now, and Baldwin also has a 301 bypass, so bypass 301, truck route straight, 301 through downtown Baldwin, turn right, which is what we shall do. Here in downtown Baldwin, we meet US 90, so we will be signed with East US 90 and turning right. West US 90 takes you to bypass 301, which we just left. And then we have to turn off of US 90. We're going to turn left to continue north on 301 and also to I-95, and Callahan is that way as well. And we're meeting bypass 301, and we are turning right for Callahan, left Stark. Southbound Stark is fine because you'd be going a different way to Jacksonville, but northbound, ugh. Here in Callahan, we are meeting US 1 and US 23 and joining with them, so that is quite a power triumvirate there. And amazingly, 301 gets first billing over US 1 and US 23, or maybe it's just easier to put the 3-digit 1 on top. In Callahan, we're getting signed for Hilliard and Folkston, Hilliard being in Florida and Folkston being in Georgia. And welcome to Georgia. We're in our second state now. We are losing US 1 and US 23. They are heading to Waycross. We are continuing north to Jessup on 301. Quite a sign salad where they actually disconnect, so Georgia State Highway 23 is thrown into the mix as well. See, Jessup is quite a bit of a distance, 53 miles away. And here we are meeting US 82, so that takes you over to Waycross to meet US 1 or 23 or both, not sure which one goes there, or Brunswick, the wonderful Control City, the other way. Now we're meeting US 341 and US 25, and we are going to be concurrent with US 25 for a while. 301, I guess, likes to do concurrencies quite a bit. And now we are merging with westbound US 84, and this is in Jessup, just on the outskirts of Jessup, where we are doing that. And we are going to be leaving US 84 and turning left toward Glenville, so we will be signed with US 25 as we turn left. We see Glenville 21, Statesboro 59 further down there. That's one of the bigger cities we'll be hitting. And we're meeting I-16. I-16, as always, is signed for Macon and Savannah. And now we are in Statesboro. Statesboro, yeah, one of the biggest cities that 301 goes through, Fayetteville and Tampa. So we are still on US 25 and 301 at this point. And here in downtown Statesboro, what is this? All the streets are named Main Street. We're on South Main Street, heading on to North Main Street, and we're intersecting with East Main Street and West Main Street. That's gotta be a mess. We're assigned for Sylvania, but I don't think we'll actually make it that far. And here we are meeting US 80, which used to go all the way to San Diego, but doesn't quite make it that far anymore, I think just to Dallas. And US 25 is leaving us now. Further up, we are going to turn right to continue on North 301 through Statesboro. And as expected, we won't make it to Sylvania. We're going straight because we are heading toward Allendale. We cross the Savannah River, so now we are going to enter South Carolina. We get no welcome to South Carolina sign, at least not one that I could see, but now we are in Allendale, which maybe is right outside Allenland. In Allendale, we meet US 278, and US 278 was requested by Leo. He wanted to see the intersection with US 278 because this heads to Hilton Head Island, where he's been on vacation before. We're going straight toward Orangeburg, and we are together with US 278, and so thank you for that request, Leo. And now we're going to split with US 278. It's heading west and away from us, and we are still signed for Orangeburg. We're meeting US 321 now. There's a lot of US highways in this part of the country, and Orangeburg is still straight ahead. We're on the main highway, and we are meeting US 601. We head into Bamberg, and we meet US 78. We're still on 301 and 601, and we are still signed for Orangeburg. And here in Orangeburg, we meet US 178, and we are still together with US 601. I've actually been to Orangeburg. I went to a barbecue place there the one time I was ever in South Carolina. Was not too close to 301 though, it was right off I-95, and I don't feel like showing it anyway because honestly it wasn't that great. Kansas City barbecue, that's where it's at. We are losing US 601 and meeting Business 21, and we are heading towards Santee. We meet US 178 and US 21 proper. They're heading for Columbia, we're heading to Santee. And we meet Interstate 26. It is well signed for Columbia and Charleston. On I-26, we get 301 North Santee. I like that black outline background on the US shield. That's pretty nice. Well done there, South Carolina. But South Carolina giveth and South Carolina taketh away. This is terrible signage here in Santee. So first off, we get this South 301, but there's no sign telling us which way is North 301. We get no signage for North US 15 at all on North 301, which we're going to be joining. They're telling you to go south to get to I-95, to go south on US 15, when at this point it is faster to go north to get to I-95. All around, just terrible signage, and if you're trying to drive north on 301, you're not going to know which way to go because they don't tell you. We're meeting I-95, and I-95 is signed south for Savannah and north for Florence, along with 301. So we are joining I-95. And here we are on I-95 and US 15, which goes over the Lake Marion Bridge. And this was requested by CforCat, so thank you so much for that request. Really appreciate it. We exit off of I-95 and we get Road 400, US 15 and 301 with no shields, North Santee. Very weird exit here. I don't know why they're doing that. No shields, and why whatever Road 400 is gets billing over US 15 and US 301. And we are heading to Somerton. We are turning right off this ramp and continuing on North 15 and 301. And in Somerton, US 301 and US 15 will split. US 15 will head north to Pennsylvania, where Leo has driven the entire length of it up in Pennsylvania, and he wanted me to mention that as he was requesting this intersection, so thank you so much. We've got another 95 junction here, and North 301 signed for Manning, 95 for Florence and Savannah. Here we are in Manning, and we are meeting 521 turn right, and we're also going to be signed for Turbeville for 301. 521 and 301 split, 521 heading to the much more famous Sumter. We're heading toward Turbeville, which I learned about today. Here we are in Turbeville. We are meeting US 378, Myrtle Beach, and Lake City are signed because 378's going to Myrtle Beach. Lake City, fortunately, it's not the Lake City. We're splitting from 378, and we are heading toward Olanta. Why Olanta is signed, I have no idea because it's not very big. And I also don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But we see, yeah, it is 6 miles away, and then Florence 29. Why not just sign Florence there? That's ridiculous. And here we're meeting US 52. Yay! US 52. And we're going to be turning left along with US 52. Here's some more bad signage here. So 2 East 76 and the airport and Myrtle Beach are that way. And we see up ahead US 52 and 301 are also going to be turning right, but it's a little bit difficult to navigate right here. And now we're meeting US 76 and 301. We're going to be turning right for Marion. We're kind of on the outskirts of Florence right now. To get into downtown Florence, you go the other way on 76, but instead we're joining 76 on 301. We split off of US 76. US 76 also signed for Myrtle Beach, and we are signed for Dillon. We're near Latta, South Carolina now, and we will turn left to stay on US 301. What we're turning left onto is US 501. If you turn right on 501, it will also take you to Myrtle Beach, although that sign right before us didn't say so. This is requested by Sargon. Sargon wanted to see this because this was the route that he first took to Myrtle Beach, and it was a nostalgic route, so he wanted to see it again in this video. So thank you so much for that request. I really appreciate that. There's another request for this intersection, and this was also requested by Leo. He wanted to request this, so thank you so much for that request. Here we are in Dillon, and 301 and 501 are still together, and we are signed for Fayetteville. Dillon is right near south of the border. I learned that when I was finding pictures for this video. Like I say, I've not been to this part of the country really at all, so this is all kind of new to me. And right here we are in good old south of the border. We can see it stretches for quite a ways. There's quite a lot to see. I've never actually been. And here we get the south of the border motor inn. You could stay at the hotel if you are into staying at roadside tourist attractions. And once we get toward the end, we are meeting I-95, and I-95 signed north for Fayetteville, south for Florence. Right as we get to I-95, we get to North Carolina state line, so 301 and 501 will head into North Carolina together. We're now in Roland, and in Roland, 501 is splitting off of 301, and we will continue straight. We are joining with I-95. We're signed for Lumberton as we join 95 north and 301 north. So they signed it for Fayetteville right south of the border, but now because we're in North Carolina, got to sign it for Lumberton, of course. We're merged with I-95 for a short time, and then 301 North Lumberton comes out. So we're signed north for Lumberton, are we? No, we're not. Lumberton is turn right. 301 North is turn left. So 301 North is signed for nothing. Why would that be? Well, let's take a look here. We see we are kind of a local road right next to I-95, and we're just away from I-95 for one exit. So 301 here doesn't really go anywhere that you can't get to just by staying on 95. So in this case, signing it for nothing works. So here's where we meet I-95 once again, and we are getting Fayetteville and Lumberton. So they're signing it for Lumberton South. We literally just came from Lumberton on the last exit for 95. Who would not have already been in Lumberton if they're here? Why are you signing Lumberton? On I-95, 301 is signed for local traffic, and that's probably about as good as you can do there. That does make sense. And here we are meeting I-95 once again, and we can see we meet 95 several times. This map is oriented 90 degrees wrong. 301 is just right next to I-95 through all of this, so there's not really any sensible control cities for 301 itself because it's faster to get everywhere on 95. We nudge up against I-95, and 95 signed for Dunn and Benson. We have our exit for Fayetteville right here. So North Business 95 to 301. So getting off that ramp, you can see we merge right onto US 301, already in progress. We're now entering Fayetteville, and this is about as confusing as it can be. Right here, speed limit 55, and right next to it, citywide speed limits 35. So what's the speed limit here? Continuing on Business 95, we get an exit for 301 North Eastover, and we head up. We go under I-295 and US 13 right here, and we end up in Dunn, downtown Dunn, and meet US 421. And the TheDerpHog requested this. He wanted to see this intersection in downtown Dunn, so thank you so much for that request. Coming the other way on 421, we see North 301 is signed for Benson and South for Fayetteville. Right outside of Benson, we cross over I-40, but we don't have an interchange for it. And then in Four Oaks, North Carolina, we are meeting 701 and 2 I-95, because we're never too far away from that. And right here in Four Oaks, 701 is going to cut off to the right, and the route to 95 will as well. We are going to go straight to continue on North 301. And here we pass what will in the future be I-42, although there is no interchange for it yet. And now we are on US 301, meeting US 70, so signed for Selma and Smithfield on US 70. On 301, we are signed for Rocky Mount now, and we see I-95 is always looming. We end up on I-95 at some point, but then we exit it here. 301 now signed for Kenley and Wilson. We're meeting 795, and I-795 has exits right here. One of those directions is to Raleigh, so we get the sign right here to get on to northbound 795. And right after that, we meet US 117, so you can turn on to 117 as well, and then straight ahead of us, we get 587. And here at 587, you can turn left onto that to get to Raleigh as well, and we are signed for Wilson on 301. And here's the interchange for North Carolina 42, no relation to I-42, but why would that stop North Carolina from ever doing anything like that? And this interchange was requested by the TheDerpHog, who lives just a couple of miles away from right here at this interchange. So that's awesome. So thanks for that request. After we meet North Carolina 42, we get this mileage sign, so Rocky Mount 16, and Weldon suddenly is our primary control, I guess, or bottom line control city. Here south of Rocky Mount, we've got this somewhat confusing situation. We've got Bypass 301 and Business 301, but none of them are called actual 301. Not sure which is which. And if you look at the actual intersection, there is no sign for either one. They don't have any signage whatsoever. And just beyond the stoplight, we get that bypass 301 sign, but there's no reassurance shield for business 301. So I guess bypass 301 it is. I guess that's what we'll follow. We meet US 64 right here, and that is an alternate route to Raleigh, and that was requested by Leo as well. So thanks for that request. And this is also a road that has appeared on some TheDerpHog videos. On the north side of Rocky Mount, we do get signage for bypass and business 301 now that it's pointless because who's going to turn around and go the other way there? And now we get a mileage sign for Enfield and Weldon. And we are joining with West US 158. Turn left, East 158, continue straight along with us on 301. Here we cross the Roanoke River right near Roanoke Rapids. I wonder if those are the rapids right there. And now we're going to split with 158 and go our own way. And now we're getting Emporia signed. We're almost to Kansas, I guess. Nah, I kid. Of course, we are near Emporia, Virginia. Welcome to Virginia. Right here, we've got kind of an interesting interchange. We meet I-95. It is an exit for 301, but we don't actually cross I-95. We are just to the east of I-95 this entire time. And now we're going to be meeting US 58, so you can go east or west on US 58 at this point. We're meeting I-95 signed for Rocky Mount and Richmond, so that's not too shabby. And now we become a frontage road for I-95. We've been skirting around I-95 for a few states now, and finally we become just a service road for it. So I'm gonna skip ahead to Petersburg, where 301, we have an exit for Petersburg, where we start to get a little bit of independence from I-95. We've got Alt North 301 going one way, we are gonna go North 301. We meet US 460, and that's going to head to I-95 as well, but we are going to continue straight on North 301. And now 301 will turn left here in Petersburg and west. US 36? US 36 doesn't come anywhere near here. I wonder what that's about. And we are meeting US 1 once again. We've been separated for quite a while and turning right through the main drag of Petersburg. And we cross the Appomattox River. I don't see the courthouse anywhere nearby. And this is the local road to Richmond, so this is what it looks like as we head on the local route to Richmond. And we have now entered Richmond, and we are meeting US 360 here. And we are meeting US 60, the great US 60, right here at this stoplight in Richmond. We cross this bridge, and we get a great view of the Richmond skyline. And we pass the Virginia War Memorial. I'd say for Virginia's two major wars, I was on their side for one, definitely not for the other. And we are meeting I-95 and I-64 as they are multiplexed at this point. So Petersburg and Norfolk. We're continuing north on 301 and 2 Highway 2. US 1 is leaving us and turning left right here. Here's where we meet I-95, and Tiger Raven wanted to see this interchange on I-95 as we reached it from I-95's point of view. So thank you so much for that request. And he wanted to see that because he got off at this exit to avoid DC traffic. We get this north I-95 to 295 right here as we drive along it. It's quite an interesting interchange. That's that Chamberlain Avenue one. And then after that, we get South 95 for Petersburg, next left. And we're meeting 295. This is requested by Leo just because it's a fine loop of Richmond. So thank you so much for that request. And looking at it from the 295 perspective, we get North 95 Washington coming up. 301 is signed north for Hanover, along with Virginia Highway 2. And here we're getting Hanover County 10, Fredericksburg 50, Baltimore 138. Not sure why we didn't just get a Baltimore sign on that exit instead of Hanover. As we continue now, we've got Bowling Green 20, Fredericksburg, then Baltimore. So that's quite a swing putting Baltimore on there. And now we are meeting Virginia State Highway 30. That's the road that will take you over to King's Dominion. So that was requested by Leo, and thank you so much for that request. We're heading toward Bowling Green, and we are getting North 301, West 207, and 95. Head to the right. Here in Central Bowling Green, we get North Business 301, turn right. North 2 for Fredericksburg, head straight. But we are going to be turning right to continue on 301. Bowling Green was requested by Micah Wallet, because this is where he's from. So thank you so much for the request. We're in the Port Royal area now, and we are meeting US 17. 17 will also go back to Fredericksburg, and this was requested by Leo, and he requested that because the TheDerpHog used to live there. So thank you so much for that request. And now we see Potomac River Bridge 18, Baltimore 96. Now we're meeting Virginia 3 in King George County. This was requested by Micah Wallet. He wanted to request this because his mom recently passed and she lived just a couple miles away from here. So my condolences to you, sir, and thank you for the request. We are heading toward the bridge over the Potomac River, and we've got a brand new bridge, so there's no street view there. There's just this kind of bad version of Street View, no real Google one. I can't really show you too much. I was hoping to show you more of this bridge. From the other side, from the Maryland side, we can look back and see the old bridge and old Street View, but we don't have really anything for the new bridge yet. And welcome to Maryland. We get north for Maryland 5, and we are taking 301 north for Baltimore. We're getting to the Bowie Bay Sox Stadium right here, Prince George's Stadium, and this was requested by Mr. Shiny because, hey, baseball. Thank you so much for that request. Here's a look at the actual stadium, and 301 is in the background there. There is no way to see the stadium from 301 on Street View. And now we're meeting US 50. We got 3 North Crofton. Why Crofton? Why not Baltimore? We've had all these signs for Baltimore since Richmond, and the fastest way to Baltimore is go straight. But we're getting Annapolis, Washington, 50 and 301. Once we get closer, we get 50 West Washington, 50 East and North 301, Annapolis, and 2 I-97 for Baltimore. But if you're not a truck, going the other way to Baltimore is faster. Here is our exit for I-97, North Baltimore, and we continue straight on 50 and 301. And now we are assigned for Annapolis and Bay Bridge. Good signage there. We get an exit 450 for Parole, and that was requested by Boss King Inc. So thanks so much for that request, Parole. It's only a few miles away from DC. It could be a fine retirement community for the folks working there. And now we've got Row Boulevard and Annapolis, so exit right there. 50 and 301 Bay Bridge, continue east. Here's our last major exit before the bridge, Baltimore for 2 North and Naval Academy for 450 South. We get our toll by mail, $6, easy pass, but Maryland only, $2.50. Last chance to avoid the toll before we get to the Bay Bridge. And here it is, the Bay Bridge, US 50, US 301. I have done this once in each direction. Here's what it looks like up on the bridge itself. Quite a high bridge. They've actually got a special service to drive people across the bridge. They're too scared to drive on the bridge. And on the other side of the bridge, we get no mention of 301 at random interchanges, just 50 East Easton, which is kind of weird. But when we split away from US 50, we get 50 East Ocean City, which was the reason I was on the Bay Bridge, to go to Ocean City. Good times. And Sargon is going to be going to Ocean City shortly as well, so he requested this split. Thank you so much for that request, Sargon. Really appreciate that. And now we will be on 301 north for Wilmington. And at random interchanges now, we get 301 for Wilmington and Bay Bridge, which makes sense. Now we get this random toll road begins in 7 miles. 301 will become a toll road, and this was requested by Boss King Inc., so thank you so much for that. 7 miles, kind of random, and it's not like there's an exit right here. And this toll road also is relatively new. Get a Wilmington 33 sign. And now as we near the Delaware border, we get pay toll 1 mile, no cash. And at this point, I think we have to pay the toll. And welcome to Delaware. And here's our toll facility right away. Random interchanges, it is 301 South Annapolis and 301 North Wilmington. And this is Delaware exit 5. This 301 is the only freeway in Delaware that uses mileage-based exits and not ordinal exits, which I learned from because of CJS 1982 requesting this exit. He wanted to see this Route 71, Delaware 71, as this actually is the old route of US 301. It used to follow this north to US 40, but now 301 has this toll road instead. So thank you so much for that request. And 301 ends at an intersection with Delaware Highway 1. We are merging onto 1. We don't get any signage for 1 at all. I was trying to find something, hoping that they would tell us that we were going to dump into it, but no. And here's what it looks like as we dump in. We see US 15 is to the right, but we don't have access to US 15 at this point. And Delaware Highway 1 is where we are merging, and Delaware Highway 1 will continue the rest of the way to Wilmington, although we shall not. All right. Let's take a look at Todd's the way it should be for US 301. There's quite a lot of control cities on this. For 301, I'm going to say Bradenton, Parrish, Tampa, Zephyr Hills, Wildwood, Ocala, Jacksonville, Callahan, Folkestone, Jessup, Hinesville, Statesboro, Sylvania, Allendale, Bamberg, Orangeburg, Santee, Turbeville, Florence, Wilmington, Fayetteville, Wade, Dunn, Benson, Smithfield, Wilson, Rocky Mount, Whitakers, Weldon, Emporia, Petersburg, Richmond, Baltimore, Annapolis, Bay Bridge, Wilmington, and that is obviously the way it should be, and I will not hear it it any other way. That's got to be the way it should be. All right, thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. Thank you so much for all the requests. I really appreciate everybody who has done requests on Patreon and the old-fashioned way. Some first-time commenters, so that's awesome too. And I will see you next week. Until that time, my name's Todd, and keep on trucking.